Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans, Council on Foreign Relations president and former U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman. Great day to have him. And MSNBC political contributor and former chief strategist for the Bush-Cheney 2004 presidential campaign, Matthew Dowd. Christine, what does the president want? That was a surprising answer from Howard Lutnick today.
I mean, if you're not going for reciprocity with some of these countries, then you're right. What exactly are we trading for here? Look, we have these steel and aluminum tariffs that went into effect today that are huge. 50%. I just got off the phone with a business owner, third generation electrical contractor and appliance service and sales and repair. Look, they're going to have to be passing these costs on immediately almost to American consumers. For months, we've been talking about these higher prices are coming, these higher prices are coming. Now we've got a whole month and a half here with these really big tariffs. You know, they're coming through the pipeline and they're coming for these consumer prices. The New York Fed in its survey said that quickly, almost all companies passed on some of their May tariffs on to consumers. And
I spoke to a steel manufacturer just a little while ago. He's a small manufacturer in Utah in a red state. I just want to play a little bit of his sound.
Being so ingrained in a red state, I feel like my voice isn't heard. I didn't vote for the current administration. And I just don't think my representatives grasp the full impact of what these tariffs do to steel manufacturers.
How many employees do you have?
I have 6. We are a small company.
How many customers do you service?
Hundreds.
So he said hundreds of customers. It's steel steel containers, excuse me. And so the stuff that's used on construction sites. Yeah. So he's hundreds of customers. They go to commercial construction, residential construction, servicing, even more people that are trying to build. So the downward effect of these steel tariffs, it's not just the manufacturer with the 6 employees. Right. It goes downstream and you end up losing either a lot of jobs or the costs of everything go up.
Yeah, he's got 3 choices. He either eats all the tariff,
which he did in 2018,
or he shares it with his customers, right? Or he starts laying people off, right? Because he's got to absorb it in his bottom line that way. And you talk about steel and aluminum in particular. These are building blocks of consumer goods, canned goods. You just showed that. Cars, car manufacturing, incredibly important there. All of these construction, we already know one estimate from the National Association of Home Builders said, before these steel and aluminum tariffs, the cost to build a new home was already up $9,200 per house because of the tariffs to date so far. So there's just a lot of hard choices and really impossible math for a lot of these different businesses.
And the other thing I asked him, which I was curious about, is he confident that American manufacturing or American steel plants can get up to speed fast enough to make it so that he's not reliant on a Canadian market or a Mexican market?
Right. So I think 20 to 25% of the steel used in manufacturing in the U.S. right now is made overseas. How long will it take to build up that supply? And also, this business owner I was just talking to, I said, if you could make an appliance 100% in the United States, would that cost more than the appliance that now you have to pay the 50%? And would there be a market for that? And he said it would be impossibly too expensive to make it completely in the United States.
Michael, it seems like we'd have to, and Christine, I'm going to say thank you to you. Yeah. I appreciate it. Michael, it seems like we'd have to reorient our entire way of living, our entire culture around consumption in order to make a lot of this work.
Well, look, I think the president is using tariffs really for 3 purposes. 1 is leverage, and it's working to bring countries to the table to negotiate. 2 is for revenue. I think he wants to raise revenue to pay for his tax cuts or partially substitute for income taxes. And then 3, it's to reindustrialize the United States, as you suggest. And there's a real theory here that he has that if we put up a wall of tariffs, ultimately it will require companies to move their production to the United States or move their supply chains to the United States. That's a big gamble. And if they do move it to the United States, it is going to be more expensive by definition. So we have some data on this, by the way. 2018, he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum. We have 1,000 more steel jobs now than we had in 2018 prior to the tariffs. But we lost 75,000 jobs downstream by folks like your previous guest who use steel in their input. And so whether it may be good for the steel industry for some period of time, but for downstream users, which are much more autos, small businesses, lots of other industries, it could actually result in fewer jobs.
But also, if you're trying to rehome manufacturing and you're trying to say that we are a place where we're going to build things again and Americans are going to consume again, it sounds great in theory. But over the past 50 years, 30 to 50 years, as we've sent manufacturing overseas, Matthew, we've become a very consumer-driven culture, a consumer-driven economy. That's what makes us run. We consume, we consume, we consume. And if you want to rehome things and make it so that we're just making stuff for ourselves again, that will mean less consumption.
Well, and Michael was very logical, I think, about what he thought Donald Trump's approach was. Whether or not Donald Trump is actually that logical is another, I think, a matter for debate in this. I think part of the problem with this whole conversation, and I think, Katie, you're alluding to it, is he making decisions to create a United States that no longer exists? That we're now so contingent on a global economy for all of the goods and services we get. People now have the way they order, the way they purchase, the way they consume, all is presumed in a global economy. And this idea that somehow Donald Trump is going to use tariffs, and I would say he's using them quite chaotically. It's not like he has some set theme that he's going to do. He puts them in place, he reverses them, he puts them in place, he reverses them, he gets mad at somebody, he puts it on them. And so, but I think the more fundamental thing is that just because somebody has a trade imbalance with us doesn't mean that's a bad thing. But it seems in Trump's world, anybody with a trade imbalance is a bad thing. What it means is cheap products for Americans here. But I do believe that what's the biggest fundamental problem here is Donald Trump and administration is making decisions in a world that no longer exists.
Yeah, and let's drill down on that, because I think there are a lot of Americans who do want to buy American. They'd like to buy quality over quantity. I think that exists, that desire exists, which is why when you poll on tariffs, people initially are pretty happy with it. When you poll on the idea of I want to buy made in America, people like that. But let me read this from the New York Times. And the title of this article is Trump Wants to Make Things Again. Does America have what it takes? In many industries, the undertaking would take years, if not decades. The United States lacks nearly every part of the manufacturing ecosystem: the workers, the training, the technology, and the government support. American factories are already struggling to fill around 500,000 manufacturing jobs, according to estimates by Wells Fargo economists. They calculate that to get manufacturing as a share of employment back to the 1970s, the peak that Mr. Trump has sometimes called for, new factories would have to open and hire 22 million people. There are currently 7.2 million unemployed people. And then you'd have to retrain American workers to work in these factories, Michael. And that's not a job that Americans are longing for. That's not one that they say they want to take. It's not one they say they want their kids to take.
Look, it's possible that through this, there will be some incremental increases in a factory here, a factory there. We see announcements by companies willing to invest in the U.S. But we are fundamentally now a services economy. 80% of our workers work in services. We have a services surplus to the rest of the world. We export more services than we import. And for the first time, there used to be a premium paid to manufacturing jobs over services jobs, but recently that flipped. And now services jobs, on average, are paying more than manufacturing jobs. So there's a real question. We may end up with 1 million or maybe 2 million more manufacturing jobs. It's got to come from somewhere. When you're at full employment, it means people will go from one part of the economy to the other. And in the meantime, this administration has not put a lot of value on services jobs, which is where most Americans actually work and oftentimes where they want to work. And so I think it's a real question about how much the economy will be transformed, even if the president is successful in bringing back manufacturing. The other thing I'd say, Katie, is this is flipping globalization on its head. Globalization had a challenge, which was everybody benefited as a consumer, but it was sort of invisible. You never left a Walmart and said, thank goodness for the World Trade Organization. Thank goodness for globalization. Now, everybody's going to feel the cost. They're going to feel the pain. It's going to be quite visible because everyone's attuned to it. And the benefits are going to be several years down the road, if they happen, to a relatively small number of workers in a relatively small number of geographies. That's a really difficult challenge to manage politically as well.
Yeah, so if this idea is desirable but incoherent, what would be a desirable and coherent, a achievable goal that the administration could offer if they really do want to make people's lives better? Matthew.
I think there,
or Michael, please take this.
Look, I think there is a role for tariffs when there's been unfair trade practices by a country, and China's has a series of policies that have been predatory towards the rest of the world, including all this excess capacity that they've developed and dumping products all over the world. There may be a role for tariffs to level the playing field, but to fundamentally raise the tariff levels to the rest of the world of at least 10% and some 25 or 50% in certain products, much higher to certain countries, it's going to make life more expensive. It's going to actually reduce productivity. And at the end of the day, we may actually have less employment rather than more employment.
Michael Froman,
Katie,
thanks. Wait, Matthew,
I would add one,
you're going to come back, but I'll give you a few seconds. Go.
One thing real quick is tell the truth to the American public. Yeah. And I think too often in this debate, the president has been lying to the American public of what he can do and can't do with economic policy. Tell the truth.